Hi, I'm Heem. Welcome to Heemland. Sorry about the thumbnail. I guarantee it'll make sense by the end of the video. One of my favorite things to do when consuming media is documenting it on a website and then ranking it with an arbitrary number. I know I just phrased that in the most passive-aggressive way possible, but that's by design. I'm not even kidding. I love doing that. I have accounts on a bunch of sites like that, from Letterboxd to How Long to Beat, and the subject of today's video, My Anime List. My Anime List, or MAL, is a site I visit nearly every day for various reasons. It's a great place to categorize the shows and movies you've watched, to discover shows you've never heard of before, to compare your tastes to the other members of the weeaboo public, to find some of the most insane reviews you've ever read, and to talk on the forums. But why would you talk on MAL's forums when you could talk about MAL on everyone's favorite social media site, Reddit? Reddit has a stigma attached to it, and everyone knows why. It's a fine website when it comes to looking for specific niches, but nobody wants to be associated with Redditors. This story takes place on r/MyAnimeList, a sub which I swear to God has a real reason to exist. Most posts there are people discussing their anime tastes and asking others to recommend more shows based on them. And the most common way of doing this is with 3x3s, which are basically grids showing off people's 9 favorite anime. I think this is a fun practice and a great way to learn about new shows, even if most of the posts there have way more comments than upvotes and the mods had to tell people to stop being so toxic. I thought this practice was fun a year and a half ago as well, when I posted my own 3x3. Most comments here were fairly standard, compliments, show recommendations and such, but there's one comment here that I think about nearly every day since I posted it. This is easily the most petty video I will ever make, but goddammit, I think of this comment too much to the point where I think it needs a video.
Fedoras are awesome. Fedoras are awesome.
Yes. Before we start with this comment, I obviously have to read out my 3x3. You're all about to learn so much about my anime taste, man. This was posted in August of 2023, and at the time, my 3x3 was Kill la Kill. Fooly Cooly. Steins Gate.
When you're on a chicken bender, grab a box of chicken tenders.
Madoka Magica.
Girls can't love girls. Girls can't love girls.
Akiba Maid War. Higurashi When They Cry. Gurren Lagann. Bakano.
Conversation is almost completely disappearing from families because of microwaves from cell phones.
And Chainsaw Man.
I know what you are.
Now that I've seen more anime, I think this chart for me nowadays would look more like this. But I still enjoy all the shows I mention here. Oh, by the way, spoiler warning for every show I just mentioned, and probably a few more. Hi, this is Heem from the editing desk. Do not harass any of the people I talk about in this video. Do not try to look them up. Do not talk to them. Please don't fucking do that, okay? Okay, good. Behave yourself. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video. The comment in question comes courtesy of you/Ice Cream, whose name I will from here on out be shortening to Mr. Cream. And Mr. Cream wrote out a very bizarre, very long judgment of all 9 shows here. Let's talk about it. Wow. There are no very below average shows, or shows with source material of below average. That's an indicator of taste. Kill la Kill. Didn't watch, but knowing it was made by Trigger, it's probably mid. But considering that Trigger are far better at comedy than drama, it's probably good. I don't know. Shouldn't be below a 4 or 5 out of 10 anyway. And we are already off to the races. Firstly, you know it's a good sign when his appraisal of show 1 is Lamau, I didn't see it. I don't really care about him saying Trigger is mid because they have a few things I don't especially care for either. We'll get to that. But the part that gets me is him saying Kill la Kill's a comedy. Don't get me wrong, it's a show with a lot of funny scenes, funny characters, but never in a million years would I classify it as a comedy. It's a shonen. I think he gets this idea because MAL itself puts the show down as a comedy, so I at least understand where he gets the idea, maybe. Anyway, Fooly Cooly. Didn't watch, but sounds something like Flip Flappers. The fact that the most similar shows on any list, according to the recommendations, are Neon Genesis Evangelion and Gurren Lagann, and not that show and Penguin Drum says something about the quality of the show. Probably a 6 or 7 out of 10. I've shown this comment to a bunch of people, and of all the joys and wonders that come out of it, the line, "It's a lot like Flip Flappers," is the one that stuck with us the most. None of us knew what the hell a Flip Flappers was, and it's just generally a funny name, so that's why it stuck. You're gonna want to remember this part, by the way. But to continue, that's 2 for 2 on shows Mr. Cream has not seen, but still decided to judge. I've also never heard of Saren's That Show and Penguin Drum, but his mention of the recommendations is strange too. At first I was going to mention that people who like Fooly Cooley are generally going to be recommended Evangelion and Gurren Lagann, because they're made by the same studio and share a lot of the same staff, but Fooly Cooley was actually made by a lot of the Ava staff because they wanted to make something not depressing. They're completely different shows tonally. Steins Gate. 8 out of 10, a message about power and responsibility and unintended consequences of actions. Would have been a masterpiece if the intro didn't take half the season, or if they made it in a chronological order, like Haruhi, for instance. I get the criticism of the first half of Steins Gate. It is slow, but I was still invested in it. The point I want to talk about here is that the show should have been released out of order. First off, in the modern day, no one watches Haruhi in release order. That was a marketing ploy that made sense because of the show's nature. Meanwhile, Steins Gate is a time loop show. There's obvious changes between loops. Okabe's personality changes throughout the show. Half the episodes wouldn't have made any sense without prior context. And like he stated earlier, the two halves of Steins Gate are very different shows, so what's being suggested is that episodes be shuffled about in a completely incomprehensible mess. Fucking awesome, man. Madoka. Just 10 out of 10. As if Dostoevsky directed an anime about conflict between personal and common goods, altruism, sacrifice, and rule utilitarianism. Rare example of an accidental masterpiece. I'm glad to see you didn't include Magia Record here, too. What? What the fuck? This might be a take people might not like, but I do think there is a such thing as overanalysis. Not to say there's not a lot to analyze in Madoka, there absolutely is, but this just comes across as so fucking pretentious. It's one of those things where I know what all the words mean individually, but combining them into this word salad makes no fucking sense. Pseudo-intellectuals like Mr. Cream here have this bold strategy of using big words because they think it makes them look smart, when in reality, if you actually translate it, it means fucking nothing. Akiba Maid War. Mixed feelings. It is a comedy, yet it is not even funny. That instantly places it below average. Yet it is difficult to make a literal slice of life worse than average, until you start adding unexpected, unnecessary magical elements when you run out of ideas, like in Girls' Last Tour. I don't know. A bit below average, probably 4 or 5 out of 10. Saying Akiba Maid War isn't funny is just not true, and I don't want to be friends with anyone who says that, but that's just like his opinion, man. I can't fault a man for his opinion. What I absolutely can fault him for is calling the show a, and I quote, literal slice of life? Not just a regular slice of life, a literal slice of life. Are you out of your fucking mind? Here's some clips from Akiba Maid War, and for those who have not seen the peak yet, I hope it convinces you. How do you see what we have just seen and come to the conclusion that yes, this is a slice of life. This is exactly like a life that one could reasonably live. Also, I have not seen Girls' Last Tour, but from what I've been told, that's not what happens in Girls' Last Tour. Higurashi, 8 out of 10. The only classical Stephen King-esque anime horror would have been a masterpiece if some scenes weren't that goofy, particularly the ending episodes. Let me get the obvious one out of the way first. Higurashi isn't like a Stephen King novel. The kids aren't fucking each other. Thank you! I'll be here all night.
Go fuck yourself.
In all seriousness, there's like 5 things he could be referring to here. It could be the final arc of season 2. It could be the weird spin-off seasons with the fan service episodes. It could be Go and Sotsu. Because of that, I don't really have much to say otherwise, but thankfully, I do for the next one. Gurren Lagann, 6 or 7 out of 10. Stupidly funny, vibe of old The Simpsons, and also delivers some serious messages about overcoming yourself in a hostile world. This one's incredible. While he's pretty much spot on in the latter half of the comment, it's the first half that leaves me baffled. This is another example of him looking at a show that's not a comedy and calling it a comedy. Hell, Gurren Lagann's even less of a comedy-focused show than Kill la Kill. I honestly don't even remember most of the comedy in Gurren Lagann besides, guys, get it? Yoko's tits are flopping out all over the place. No one talks about Gurren Lagann for being funny. They talk about it for being fucking badass. Hi, editing Heem back yet again. Remember that montage I played earlier where I showed a funny clip from all the shows that I talk about here? All of the clips there were ones I thought about off the top of my head, except for Gurren Lagann. I had to phone a friend who had watched the show recently asking him for a funny moment. And I think that furthers my point here. Not to say the show is bad, it's just not a fucking comedy like this guy says. Anyway, back to the video. Hope you enjoyed. And then we got the Simpsons comparison. As someone who's seen a good amount of classic Simpsons, I can safely say that I have no idea what the fuck Mr. Cream is talking about. I've put a lot of thought into this, and I have zero explanation. My best guess is he's only ever seen the one episode of Gurren Lagann with the guest animator, or the one at the spa. This is just reminding me I need to rewatch Gurren Lagann. Bakano, didn't watch. Many say it's just garbage, but knowing it's from the same author of Durarara, it's probably not worse than a 5 out of 10 still. Back to the classic, didn't watch. I have no idea who this many that Mr. Cream is referring to is. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone who dislikes Bakano. Actually, come to think of it, I don't know many people who've seen Bakano at all. I'm not sure what he's trying to get at, rating it like Durarara. I can't tell if he means that positively or negatively. For what it's worth, between posting this comment and now, I have seen Durarara, and I don't think it's as good as Bakano, not even close. And finally, Chainsaw Man. I have mixed feelings about this one. The original manga was as stupidly funny as Gurren Lagann and Flip Flappers, there it is again, while also somehow being serious and overall great, yet everyone is trashing on the adaptation. There are numerous cases when a good source was ruined by a garbage adaptation, like Umineko and Magia Record, and also when a trash source was saved by a competent studio, like Made in Abyss Season 2 or Mushoku Tensei, and I have always had mixed feelings about this one. Therefore, this again shouldn't be worse than a 5 out of 10. Okay, there's a lot to unpack with this one. Of all the things here, this is the only one where I've read the entire manga for it. In fact, I think this is the only one that is a manga adaptation. There's this fringe opinion on Mal and like other social media sites about how the Chainsaw Man anime sucks and how Japanese fans hate it because the show had low DVD sales, despite it being on every fucking streaming service ever over there. And people not realizing that DVD sales do not matter in the big 2025. A lot of people think this is why the new movie for this show, which as I record this isn't out right now, has a different director, but I think that's more so because Mappa's run like a Chinese sweatshop. I'll give him the comedy point, because there's definitely more of a comedy focus in that than Gurren Lagann. The ending few sentences intrigue me the most, though. As the saying goes, a broken clock works twice a day. He's 100% right about the Umineko anime. I'm sure I just delighted all 4 Umineko fans watching this. There will 100% be a video on this channel about the Umineko anime later. I wonder what Mr. Cream got out of Umineko. I haven't seen Made in Abyss or Mushoku Tensei either, but from what I understand, that is a very interesting combination of TV shows. If it was one and not the other, I wouldn't say anything, but like, that's a little suspicious.
You suspicious looking character.
This is what we in the industry like to call foreshadowing. While there are no masterpieces here besides Madoka, and more experienced and old anime fans don't even consider Madoka to be a masterpiece, saying that Revolutionary Girl Utena and Princess Tutu are better genre subversions, your taste is still more elite than kinda 98% of the anime fan base nowadays, and you also don't seem to adore any typically elitist shows that have little beyond their aesthetics and pseudo-intellectual conversations like Ergo Proxy and Ghost in the Shell. You've been respected by a person who sets most anime he watches on hold to watch something better. Well done. Now watch something better and try to get respected by you/Nagato Yuki. Good luck. For starters, as the saying goes, a broken cock comes twice a day. Mr. Cream is 100% right about Ghost in the Shell. I wouldn't call it a bad movie, but it's mostly just nothing happening for an hour, and the second something cool happens and you're pumped up for the rest of the film, it just ends.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. It's over. A lot of people in the audience look pissed.
Also, him calling anything pseudo-intellectual is fucking precious, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, congratulations me. I have earned the respect of Mr. Cream, despite his ratings for shows averaging to a meager 6.44 rating. I am in the 2% of anime fans who deserve respect, but not in the 1%. I have yet to be approved by the legendary Yuki Nagato, the smartest anime fan of them all. He's talking about this like it means something. You can probably see why I think about this comment nearly every day, right? Well, thankfully, the well is far from dry. This isn't even the only comment Mr. Cream has on this post. One commenter here recommended me Cyberpunk Edgerunners, to which I said I'd seen the show and wasn't a big fan. I still stand by this, it's fucking gorgeous to look at and the action's great, but the story is weak and the dialogue literally made me want to kill myself at times.
It's always been a part of me. I'm built different.
Unfortunately, Mr. Cream agrees with me yet again. Based opinion. Studio Midgar has never produced anything serious that would be above a 5 out of 10 in quality. Midrunners is a completely average show. It does not disgust you while you watch it, yet you find yourself unable to experience anything emotional. It's just tolerable, and that's all. Same with Ghost in the Shell, but it had cool aesthetics at least. If you want a better sci-fi action anime clearly inspired by Western media, try Vivi the Fluorite Eyes song. It is way less pseudo-intellectual than Ghost in the Shell. The action scenes are almost completely hand-drawn and are just artistically amazing, and it even manages to make you feel something for the characters. Unlike Midrunners. Generalizing Trigger by saying everything they've ever done sucks is still really funny because, once again, he was praising known Simpsons like Gurren Lagann earlier, which is the exact same staff. I don't love every Trigger thing either, but at least I'm consistent about it. I acknowledge that my opinion on Edgerunners is a hot take, and I know there's a lot of people that really emotionally connected with the show, which is, once again, why it's funny that he's talking about being unable to experience anything emotional from it, like it's a fact. I've never heard of Vivi the Fluorite Eyes song before this either, but once again, it's ironic that Mr. Cream's trying to call anything pseudo-intellectual when he had that whole Dostoevsky rule utilitarianism thing going on earlier. As we can clearly see, Mr. Cream is deranged, but this isn't even the half of it. How does it become worse?
What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster?
When I first read through this comment, one of the first things I did was look at the profile of you/Nagato Yuki, who, by the way, I want you to imagine as just being the character Yuki Nagato from Haruhi Suzumi. You got that? You got that. Great, thank you. The first thing I saw in Nagato's profile was them participating in a debate about the age of consent in an Ask Reddit thread. Guess which side they were on? Unfortunately, I can't find this comment anymore, but thankfully, Mr. Cream has also publicly made his opinion on the age of consent known, also on the Ask Reddit thread. Because of the obviously terrible subject matter this deals with, if you don't want to hear any of this, here's a timestamp. I'm going to leave this on the screen the entire time so you can skip whenever you want. Age of consent and age of majority are spook. People mature at different rates, and there is nothing wrong with fucking a 14-year-old who is more mature mentally, more smart, responsible, and physically developed, less impulsive and neurotic than most 25-year-old chicks. This applies to both boys and girls. There are millions of impulsive people with the mental maturity of a 13-year-old who aren't suited to have kids, yet they breed around and produce them like rabbits. Yet fucking one isn't going to get you incarcerated. Yet making love passionately with a gorgeous, smart, and responsible high school girl is going to get you in jail. This is absurd. In terms of things actually on Nagato Yuki's profile, there's this post they made on Ask Reddit. Say some gangsta is dissing your fly girl. What do you do? That was a good one, right? Give you a little smile, a moderate chuckle at least. Yuki Nagato posted the same joke 4 times over the course of 4 months, which mostly received the same reaction of, huh? This is the last Heem editing bit, I swear on it. For whatever reason, when I was writing and recording this, I never bothered to look up what the gangsta fly girl quote was from, and it is a joke from known Gurren Lagann knockoff, The Simpsons. I know I said earlier that I've watched a lot of old Simpsons, but unfortunately I don't remember every bit from the first couple seasons of The Simpsons. It's not even like he's posting the punchline of said bit, he's just asking people to finish the bit for him, and I think that makes these 4 posts a little bit more pathetic. Oh yeah, also Nagato Yuki posted this. After reading this whole comment for the first time, I called him out on it for reasons you'd expect, how this supposedly nice compliment was actually incredibly backhanded, and that his friend was talking about the age of consent in this way. Of course, I didn't say that word for word, but I thought it. Mr. Cream hit me back with a classic rebuttal. Unfortunately, this comment was deleted by moderation, but I archived it because I had to archive this. Of course, people with shitty worldviews usually have shit takes, yet this guy's views are mostly good. They are libertarian, and libertarians are known for being the most smart and rational. They didn't even say the age of consent is too high if that disturbs you. And suddenly everything makes sense. Libertarianism. What else could explain this but libertarianism? This is what people make up when talking about Redditors, but this is real. Redditors act like this, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm mostly done discussing this comment, this wondrous, wondrous joy of a comment, but this vid ain't done yet. My pettiness knows no bounds, and I have to test the one portion of the comment I've thought about the most.
覚悟が違うからな。
I'm built different.
So obviously I watched all of Flip Flappers. How couldn't I? It's practically a meme with me and my friends based on the name and libertarian association alone. I'll be judging this show based on 3 different criteria. 1, the basis of any critique. Is it good? 2nd, is it a lot like Fooly Cooly? 2nd, is it as stupidly funny as Chainsaw Man and Gurren Lagann, 2 shows which, remember, aren't comedies. Flip Flappers was released in 2016 by Studio 3 Hertz and was directed by Kiyotaka Oshiyama. If you recognize this name, that's because Oshiyama would later go on to form Studio Durian and direct the film Look Back, so there's actual prestige involved with this show. Not to mention that it has the esteemed honor of being voted the best anime of 2016 by 4chan's A board. The show is about Kokona, an ordinary, ambitionless middle school girl who one day meets Papika, a strange girl who takes her to a place called Pure Illusion, which is like an alternate dimension where anything can happen. It's not explained very well. Papika recruits her to an organization called Flip Flap, which collects crystal shards called Amorphous from Pure Illusion, which contain a lot of power, such as turning our protagonists into magical girls. And the show details the many adventures and dilemmas they come across while they're in Flip Flap. Knowing the director would later direct Look Back explains a lot of things. They're both very artsy, very abstract, oftentimes let the visuals do the talking, and because of that they're both often unbelievably slow. Flip Flappers picks up in the second half, but the first few episodes are painful at times. Oh, and there's Yuri. There's a lot of Yuri in both of them. Papika spends the entire show absolutely obsessed with Kokona, saying her name many times and often the exact same cadence. Every clip I just used was from episode 2, by the way. There's a lot going on in Flip Flappers. Much of it isn't explained very well, and with the lore often being weirdly complicated, the show is often very hard to follow. There's this rival organization called Asclepius that's also after the Amorphous, which is led by the Ku Klux Klan, which consists of Kokona's school friend Yayaka and these two twins named Yu and Tota. Fun fact, these kids are played by actual children. Yu's actor was only 14 when this was released, and Toto's was only 11. I think their performance speaks to that.
煙バカあ
In terms of the specific criteria that Mr. Cream has made for us, is Flip Flappers a lot like Fooly Cooly? Kinda? It's like Fooly Cooly if you injected it with a shit ton of Nichijou and a little dose of Madoka for good measure. If you strip both shows down to their bare essentials, they're both about annoyed school children learning how to grow up and enjoy life via a crazy girl that causes weird shit to happen. I guess Haruko and Papika could both be seen as manic penis rim girls or whatever the phrase is, but that's a stupid phrase and I'm not associating with it. Overall, I get the comparison thematically, but it's not one I'd ever make, especially considering how fast Fooly Cooly is and how not fast Flip Flappers is at times. As for the humor, Flip Flappers is definitely more comedy-oriented than Gurren Lagann or Chainsaw Man. It's just that here, the comedy's not very good.
It is a comedy, yet it is not even funny.
I made the Nichijou comparison earlier, and that's the show that kept coming to mind for a lot of the aspects of Flip Flappers, including the humor. And by that I mean a lot of the humor is just things just kind of happening. Not to say it's all bad, there were a few moments that got legitimate laughs out of me.
これ食べられる？多分美味しくないよ。おいしい。
But for the most part, it's not my type of humor. There's a lot of characters that solely exist for this too. There's this comic relief robot character that adds nothing to the show. There's this comic relief rabbit that also adds nothing to the show. There's this scientist dude who works for Flip Flap that's super dedicated to his work, and actually he was kind of cool. He was cool. Other things, for some reason this show has a lot of fan service. It's never blatant, it's usually limited to camera angles and just randomly drawing cleavage or ass cracks when there's literally no reason to, but it's like, why would you even think of sneaking that into a show like this? Well, I know why, but it's like, why? To give an example, this is the only show I can think of with a transformation sequence with a pussy shot. I'm not showing it, but just know it's there. Also, this is a character design. Jesus Christ! The soundtrack is a strong point throughout the show, in particular the ending theme, which is both a nice song and very nice visually as well. I mentioned it being slow earlier, but it definitely picks up a lot near the end. There's a couple episodes that are genuinely emotional and others that are pretty fun. One highlight episode to me is one near the middle where Kokona meets a bunch of alternate versions of Papika, and they're all wildly different, but she learns she likes the original more. I want to mention they never explain why it's called Flip Flappers. This is just the name of the show and the name of the organization, and the magic code word that turns them into magical girls is flip flapping, but that's it. Wait, that's a lot like Fooly Cooly, I get it! And yeah, that's Flip Flappers. Although it has its moments and doesn't really have a lot of flaws, the main thing is that what it does well, it doesn't really do exceptionally well. My final verdict? It's okay. Not great, but not bad. Since this video is about Mal, the rating I ultimately decided to give Flip Flappers on that site was a 6 out of 10. Even despite the context of the comment, I genuinely gave this show a chance. I was ready to admit defeat if Mr. Cream ended up being right about it. After all, who could discount the opinion of A? Although the show wasn't bad, I can see why a pseudo-intellectual like Mr. Cream would like it so much with its abstractism and all that, so no surprises there. The moral of the story? Your opinion is the only one that matters. And mine. My opinion matters too. I've been Heem, hope you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
I could get used to this being happy. I could get used to a brighter day. If I'm dreaming, don't anybody slap me.